Hi, everybody. I'd like to introduce Gert Christen, who's joining us today from City Innovate Foundation. Gert is COO of the City Innovate Foundation, architect of the Test and Learn Collider methodology. He's an international expert in building and growing technology businesses. He has lived and worked in Asia, Europe, North and Latin America. Before returning to California, he led 2 startup incubators and founded the entrepreneurship department at his alma mater university in Zurich, Switzerland. He won the National Swiss Marketing Trophy for Best National Marketing Campaign for founding Startupfair, the largest event for the startup industry there. His event experience includes 7 years with Nokia in the US, Latin America, where he created Nokia's commercial content business. Prior, he was active in the RFID with assignments in Europe and Asia. Mr. Christen earned his MBA at Southern Methodist University Cox School of Business in Dallas, Texas, USA, followed by postgraduate work at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne and the Zurich University of Teacher Education. Please welcome Gert.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Google, for having me today. Really important topic to us at City Innovate. City Innovate is a network of cities that have realized and are dedicated to innovating. And what I will explain to you today and show to you today is cities are not ordinary customers, they're public organizations, and how public organizations, how they function, how they buy, what motivates them, but also what they have to pay attention to and what they are asked to protect is very different from private organizations. So while IoT will definitely coming to every city near all of us, we have to be careful how we go about it. And what I'm going to show you in the next 15-20 minutes is the way that City Innovate proposes how we could do this together. Because one thing is clear, cities are the fastest growing systems and places where people live. Actually, since two years, more than half the world's population has been living in cities, not in the countryside anymore. So with regards to IoT solutions, any IoT solution we can deploy in a city will have a huge impact on lives of a lot of people. And that is what City Innovate, what we work for. I'll go forward. But as bringing new businesses and new digital businesses to cities has caused some problems in the past. This is an example of a protest last December in front of San Francisco's City Hall, where some folks were not didn't agree with this great service of Uber coming to San Francisco. And if you think, what does this mean for the mayor? It means that the mayor has a city of more than 800,000 people, plus Uber's headquarters in his own town, employing thousands of highly qualified people. And the San Franciscos, they love the Uber service. Unfortunately, there's some other groups like the traditional taxi industry that found out that if you read the law of the city of San Francisco, you could make the claim that, hey, Uber type of service isn't legal in your city. And Mr. Mayor, you were elected to uphold the law in this city. And so we're asking you to ban Uber. Now, what should this poor mayor do? If he bans Uber, many of the people living in the city will not be happy with him, which might not be so good if you're a mayor who wants to be re-elected. On the other hand, if he allows Uber, he has an entire industry that can claim that, well, you're going against the law. It's really an impossible situation. And it came about, it's a wicked problem because the mayor cannot solve it alone, Uber cannot solve it alone, the taxi industry cannot solve it alone. They really all have to work together. And this is what the City Innovate Foundation, what we do. We're on purpose a non-profit foundation, because as a non-profit foundation, we can provide this neutral ground where many different stakeholders can come together and work together to talk through problems and develop a solution before we just launch a Uber-like service or an IoT-like service in a city. Let's talk this through. Let's make sure we cover all the bases. And how we do this, I'm going to show you in a minute. City Innovate is a network of cities. We work for cities that want to solve different problem areas. We have our own lab in the center of San Francisco, in the middle of Civic Center, at Civic Center Station, called Superpublic, which is in the United States the first time that municipal government, state government, and the federal government got together with the private sector to create an innovation lab. So what is the difference? What is the difference when a public organization tries out new technology? This is from last week. The Swiss Post, so a public organization owned by the federal government, is testing autonomous buses in one of the cities in Switzerland. This cute bus overlooked a delivery van that had its rear doors open and, bent the door. So small fender bender. If this were a private organization, if this were a Google Lexus, we all know it has happened several times that as these vehicles learn, yes, they make mistakes and the little fender benders happens. We would all say, oops, and the owner of the damaged car would be compensated, and then we would move on. When a public organization such as the Swiss Post Service does exactly the same thing, trialing a new technology such as autonomous vehicles, when there is a fender bender, the consequence is not just oops and let's fix the damage and move on. They stop the trial. They stop the trial because as a public organization, they feel that they are under much more scrutiny to do right, and they cannot hurt anybody, and they don't want they cannot take this obligation that wow, the Swiss Post is trying out something that can cause damage in cities. So the effect is much bigger because of the political dimension. And I predict that once we start deploying IoT solutions in cities, there will be these incidents. There will be these incidents. So what we must together achieve is that we have good cooperation and we think this through very carefully before launching in order to minimize such incidents from happening. They will still happen, of course, because they're unplanned. That's in the nature of deploying and trying out new technologies. But at City Innovate, we offer a way to bring IoT to government. We're not just like poor Boromir for whom the glass is always half empty. We say, no, there is a way. And this is what City Innovate does. So we don't create products. We're not engineers, but we offer a forum which is neutral, which is safe, where political organizations such as cities, state, federal government organizations can exchange with private industry in a methodical way in order to learn from each other, exchange with each other, and basically create the blueprint. If we want to bring IoT to government, how do we do this in an orderly, methodical fashion? And how do we make sure that as much as we can, we don't forget any steps? As was the case with the Uber service, that the situation with what is a driver, and are these drivers self-employed or not self-employed, and what kind of identification, qualification is necessary for the drivers. That part was not handled before launching service. And for this, to do such projects and work on such initiatives and convene these diverse groups together, this is what we founded the Superpublic Lab in the center San Francisco. The founders are us from City Innovate Foundation, then the San Francisco Mayor's Office of Civic Innovation, MOCI, the U.S. General Services Administration, GSA, and 18F, the Digital Services, Digital Transformation, Technology Transformation Services of the federal government. So for the first time, private industry, city, state, and federal level are represented. And what do we do at City Innovate and Superpublic? These are the 5 things that we do. So first of all, we are a network of cities. Cities become members in our network, which gives them access to exchanging with each other, an intense discussion going on amongst all these cities, both from the US and abroad. And we listen very carefully, and we try to connect many dots for them. And every now and then, there are several cities that talk about the same problems. And these are themes that we pick up and start initiatives. And when we have such a theme, such as IoT for cities, then we organize micro summits. First convening several cities, subject matter experts, private companies that, after all, will provide these IoT solutions to come together to really explore the problem in the city context. And to map out what is this network, what is this ecosystem that on the one hand represents the problem, on the other hand represents the products that could solve the problem. And when there is enough cities and industry together to say, yes, we think we have something here. If we just work together, we can probably we're confident that we can come up with a blueprint, a playbook. How would the city work with all the different stakeholders to solve that problem using solutions from private industry? And that's when we move on into a collider, where we have this principle of 5 + 5 + 5, 5 cities as a cohort together, dedicated, committed cities to solving a particular problem. For instance, having a budget committed, having the mayor committed, having some legislation in the works in order to address a certain problem. And we'll match them with five companies that are leading in this space, that each say, I have an approach that I want to share with cities because we did this in some other city or some other country, and it's really working well. I can help solve at least a part of that problem. So when we assemble companies that between them hopefully have a complete solution. And to make sure that this doesn't neither turns into a sales discussion by the companies nor into pure policy discussion by the city representatives, we add independent experts, academics, subject matter experts, thought leaders in this space. We also add a data analysis, because in this moderated discussion, the 5 use cases or the 5 ideas, we should do this and this and this, and if we do all these 5 together, the problem will be solved. We want to make sure that this is not some expert opinion, but there's actually empirical data that shows, yes, if you solve that use case, it will alleviate the problem. We also reach out into cities. That is very, very important when a city launches an initiative, that they involve the community living in the city. It makes perfect sense because from the lean agile approach, always a good idea, before you do something, ask the customer, get the feedback from the customer. So that's one reason why we do this. And in the political decision-making process, it's very, very important to involve the community so that later on, when the initiative is rolled out, you have the buy-in. You have the buy-in early on. And also this we provide to the cities as actual feedback. So we do user testing, we do rapid prototyping, then we send our civic user testing team into those cities to get the actual feedback, with the goal of building capacity. And building capacity in a city context is getting the buy-in from the person who is the lead, who leads that project, get the buy-in from all the colleagues in the other departments of the city administration that he needs in order to have a successful rollout. And then when cities want to go on and say, okay, now we like it, let's do it, we have the budget, so let's go and buy or procure a solution. Then we have another program called P4 Accelerator, where again, cohort-based, we help cities to stay together and actually buy together in the ideal case. And whatever we learn through this process, once a year we have an annual summit where all our city members come together. We just had this at the beginning of September. 450 city representatives, industry representatives, all the experts got together for 4 days here in San Francisco and Berkeley and celebrated and learned from each other all the work that had been done for the last 12 months, but also helping us set the agenda, helping us set the themes that our city members want us to work on for the next 12 months. And I actually shared a list with you today. These are the themes that we're going to work on. There's lots of IoT opportunities in there, and let's see where we can do something together. And I'm very happy to announce also to Google that this is not just talk and theory. No, we're actually doing it. One theme that we've worked on for a long time, excuse me, is mobility in cities. Our city members tell us that congestion and transportation and public transit is the #1 problem for all the cities that are members in City Innovate. How do people and goods get from A to B in these fast-growing cities? In both developed countries and developing countries, it is the #1 problem. So this is the first one where we're now at the point where we actually launch a Collider project around urban mobility, where we want to, which will have a lot to do with how can data drive transportation in the future. We're very proud also that Miami-Dade County, the county has encompasses 34 cities, 2.7 million inhabitants, and it ranks as the 7th most congested metropolitan area in the US. Any problem in mobility and transportation we can solve there. Certainly, many other cities can learn from that as well. So Miami-Dade is the lead city, representing 34 cities within their county. Then, as you can see, we've assembled the major companies that we need at the table to define how to go forward. Cubic is a leader, not only in the US, but also international in providing ticketing and fare collection systems for public transportation. So here in the Bay Area, BART, Clipper Card, the Muni Clipper Card in San Francisco is provided by this company. And they also provide ticketing fare collection system in Miami. Lyft is part of the Collider project as one of the new gig economy ride-hail systems. Zipcar is very established. I think it is the oldest car share system in the US. And then UC Berkeley with their Transportation Sustainability Research Center as our academic experts. How will we work? We have 4 sprints, each sprint lasting for a quarter. We start in October to December with the first sprint where we'll talk about back-end integration with the City of Miami, County of Miami-Dade at the table, and these companies. How can we open up? How can we open up the back-end of this 10, 20-year-old ticketing system in Miami so that they can exchange data and transactions with new smartphone-based solutions such as Lyftcar or Zipcar? If we can't get them to exchange data with each other, how can you create new services, such as, for instance, you ride a train, and at the end of the train line, you will already have a lift waiting for you, or you already reserved a zip car for you, which will open up as soon as you come with your smartphone. We have to first address these legacy backend systems to make them more open. So open backend integration is our first sprint. Once we have done, we want to do the same thing for payments, because one of the reasons why public driving your own car is sometimes just a more seamless experience than using public transit is you have to pay every time. So the example of San Francisco, okay, we have one Clipper card, but I need to pay Muni and I need to pay BART, and it's separate. And if I want to book a lift car at the end of my BART ride, I need to pay in the Lyft app. So that's three different payment interfaces. Just picking up my car key from my kitchen counter, get in my car and drive all the way to my destination is much simpler. So that is why second sprint next winter will be on payment integration, so that I can plan, route, book, and pay with one click for a trip involving several different providers of transportation, both public and private. That is the objective. Because once we have that, the backend is integrated and more open, provides APIs, provides a data layer, data warehousing, and so on. And there is an integrated payment functionality where you pay once, and that payment gets settled on the backend between the different providers. Now we're able to create new services, and that's what we'll do in the spring next year. Creating a new service, and we're taking autonomous vehicles as the example. How can a city create autonomous vehicle service? For instance, a last mile shuttle bus, a little bus, maybe like the one we saw in one of the slides before, little bus that at the end of the train line just runs around in the neighborhood, picking up people and getting people from and to the station. Autonomous vehicles, in the sense of buses, have enormous potential for cities. Cities are very, very interested, because these autonomous buses, they do many, of course, electric. They do many things. They're electric instead of diesel. That's good for greenhouse gas emissions, to lower them in a city. If they're autonomous, they can run all day long and all night long, without the city having to hire, 2.2 drivers for every bus that they want on the road, because the drivers, they get sick, they deserve vacation, they need training, then they can only work so many hours at the time, because it's a job that needs a lot of concentration. So the potential is huge. They're highly interested. So how can we do this? How can we create autonomous vehicle services? And finally, the fourth sprint, in a year from now, will then be about equitable access. If we have a more open and integrated backend with integrated payment possibilities, and we know how to create new services on this upgraded infrastructure, now the city can define offerings for certain parts of the population that are very important to them. For instance, paratransit services for the elderly, or for the services for the disabled, on-demand paratransit. Why can you not order a paratransit van from a smartphone app that is as easy as Lyfts or Ubers to use? In a year from now, we'll talk about that. And this pattern is how we work in a Collider, and mobility is the first one. Coming back to IoT, there's lots of IoT in here. If we are successful with Miami-Dade in mapping out what's the playbook, what's the blueprint, how you integrate your legacy backend with cutting-edge new services, hopefully, I would hope that we can also use this blueprint then as the basis. How do you launch IoT services in a city? Perhaps going back to the same backend. And here's the list with IoT services. Okay, the slide is jumping in a second. I'm just trying to show you the same slide that I see on my screen. Okay, it'll jump in a second. So this first collider is going to focus on transporting people, but at the same time we have big interest and obviously lots of IoT ramifications in also starting a collider, urban mobility for goods. Logistics companies are interested in route optimization. So how do these trucks talk to the street? How does the city's traffic management system, what kind of inputs can it give to the logistics companies now and to the autonomous goods delivery vehicles tomorrow to make sure that a logistics company can optimize their routing and route their truck with the driver now, but autonomous in the future to make it optimum for them. But there's the vehicle to infrastructure connectivity. How does the car talk to the street? For instance, one car manufacturer told me that the cars themselves they could actually tell the public works department where the potholes are because the car knows. The car knows and sense whether the shock absorber, if it's a normal bump or if it's so extreme that it must be a pothole. And if thousands of cars have a big amplitude in the shock absorber in the same place, maybe that would be good information for the public works department to have, to say, well, there's a high likelihood that there is a pothole there. Saves a lot of labor. You don't have to, public works department wouldn't have to send out an inspector first. They could directly deploy the team that actually fixes the pothole. How can we do that? That is IoT, and it is at the same time mobility. Urban sensors and smart lighting is another big topic that all the cities are interested. Current thinking is that how will the cars talk to the street? They will not. These sensors and antennas and so on. The current thinking is that they should go on the light poles, not buried in the surface of the road, because that's you first have to close the road to bury them, and then in the regular intervals you have to dig up the road again, or the city has to dig up the road again to upgrade them or exchange them. How about we put them up in the streetlights? That's the current thinking, and it has actually a lot of good makes a lot of sense, because all kinds of different sensors can be up on those light poles or in those traffic lights. Here are just a few that I mentioned. Can sense how many cars. So we have connected cars, and we know not only how many cars, but actually what cars they are, how many people are in them. That's better for managing traffic. It can also sense people. How about at night? 3:30 in the morning. Do all the street lights have to be fully on, or maybe only those where actually some people walk around? That'd be good to conserve energy. But at the same time, what if there is some noise somewhere, or the sound of breaking glass, or of someone shouting for help? How about there are sensors that can also detect these, and in this case, all the street lights in the surroundings can be activated to full power to actually give a lot of light to protect the person, or for the camera to be able to record what is going on. But also it's an opportunity for Wi-Fi. It's an opportunity for Wi-Fi. Are we back to this? Gives an opportunity for cities to, through these sensors, through Wi-Fi and beacon technology, communicate with cars. Is there the possibility to actually create a citywide Wi-Fi network, not only for IoT, but of course also for people. And maybe that's interesting for private industry who would like to create services on top of this Wi-Fi network, services for which people will be willing to pay. A third theme that we are working on is digital identity in the context of online government services. I'm quite sure I don't insult anyone if I just say that my personal experience is that in general, online services by government are not quite as nice and easy to use as online services by private industry. And why is that? It shouldn't be this way. Shouldn't be this way. The technology is the same. The designers are just as good. But again, it's the political dimension. And one thing that holds governments back from launching great user experiences online or in mobile is digital identity. How can we ensure that these services are safe? How can we ensure that data privacy is guaranteed? And the bar is just higher. And me personally, I can't say if it's higher legally or if it's higher by perception. Or would you like to be the mayor in whose city hundreds of thousands of online identities have been stolen? I don't think so. And so we're launching a digital identity theme to figure out what's the blueprint, what's the architecture to involve this. It would be nice if we had a single sign-on for, from DMV to the postal service to the IRS to childcare to food stamps. It would certainly be a good thing. But it has to be thought through, and again, no one party can solve this alone. And the fourth big topic for our city members is urban resilience. How can our cities become more resilient? And obviously, again, there's a lot of opportunities for IoT that I can see in this. Disaster planning, recovery, and simulation scenarios. Everything with water supply, measuring water quality, optimizing water distribution and reclaiming water, grey water, and so on. Also alternative energy supply, the whole smart grid discussion when it comes to mass supply, but also on a local level. How can neighborhoods become more self-sufficient with energy generation? So these are the four big themes that we're working on, and we're kicking it off in 2 weeks from now with the first collider on mobility. And we have a way to speak with cities in a neutral forum, but very methodical forum that we can say will help to prevent as good as we can, as we can foresee it, Uberish type of problems in cities. So my question to you, Google, is what can we do together? These are some of the things that we do as part of our Collider and P4 Accelerator methodology, and maybe there are some things there that you are interested in working with us. Rapid prototyping for IoT in cities. We'll for the next 12 months, we can, in Miami-Dade County alone, we have access to 34 cities, all kinds of cities, from beach towns to low-income areas. Everything is there. So through the county, we will regularly deploy our civic user testing team in those teams. Can we do something together? Do you have interesting IoT prototypes that you would like to join the exercise? That is something we can look at. User testing as well. So we're going to deploy teams that poll in the cities where we start colliders or micro summits, colliders, or P4 accelerators. Perhaps we can do something together, or perhaps there are Googlers that are interested in participating in this exercise. Overall, we are a neutral forum where that cities trust. We're a non-profit organization, so in this sense, we are no competition to anyone, and that's this neutral exchange that cities appreciate. And through this, they allow us to create forums and formats where they can exchange with other cities, with private industry, and also educate themselves about cool new technologies that can have a big impact, positive impacts in their cities, such as, for instance, IoT technology and IoT applications. These are some of our ideas, what we see, what we could work together with the overall goal that if we work together, I'm very sure that City Innovate can help for the interest of all of us, not just Google, but also the cities and hundreds of thousands of people to deploy IoT in cities that are well prepared, that understand what it means, and that have been involved in a methodical process of thinking things through, writing the playbook, the blueprint. What do you need to prepare in a city if you want to launch IoT solutions? These are our 4 ideas and the 4 themes that we work on, and I now look forward to our discussion, and we're open to all of your ideas. And with this, thank you very much for joining the talk this morning.